time to introduce our special guest. So, Eddie Green, born in rural Georgia, he was an entertainer from a young age, impersonating icons like Cher and Barbara Eden from I Dream of Jeannie. I remember that show. I loved that show. Dreaming of a life on stage, his stint at exotic dancing evolved into performing with life size puppets, and you'll meet one of them tonight. It landed him a gig on America's Got Talent. So not only do we have a super person, but we have a superstar here with us tonight. He'll talk about his journey growing up gay in the South, being an entertainer with AIDS, surviving cancer, losing his eyesight, and his current community building activities. That's quite a resume, if you ask me. In recent years, he's shifted his focus toward fostering community and support for older LGBTQ plus individuals, leads a group of people living with HIV, helps facilitate the vintage lunch at the Billy DeFrank Community Center, and coordinates the Avenidas Walking Group. Eddie's dedication to creating inclusive spaces reflects his enduring commitment to authenticity and community. So with that, let's welcome Eddie Green to the stage.
I was born in 1957 in Georgia, and I grew up on a really big farm. I had 4 siblings. I was the youngest of the 5, and one of my brothers is here tonight who supports me in a lot that I do, so thank you for coming out and supporting me. And so I grew up in the South during a time that was very much like Mayberry. It was during that time period, and the town that I grew in was very much like that. And for the longest time, I really thought we were like the Walton family. And then I realized we were just the dysfunctional version of the Waltons. So life was hard. As a young child, I had a very creative imagination, which quite often got me into trouble, but sometimes it didn't. Fun things happen from it. And my father was not fond of a lot of the things I did. Yes, I Dream of Jeannie was something I loved. And when it first came on, we had got a console TV. And I used to crawl in under it and come out behind it doing the whole, I'm dreaming of being Jeannie. And that didn't go so well with my daddy. So I also loved the Sonny and Cher show. And I watched that quite often. And I remember one day watching it, or one night, I just was so excited. And I said, oh my God, when I grow up, I want to be just like her. And my dad was very upset. He said, you do know she's a girl, right? And I'm like, yes. But, you know, I loved all of the TV shows. I loved all the movie stars. I always felt at a very young age that stage was where I wanted to go. Just did not know how I was going to get there, because my father, as much as I love him, he was a wonderful person. He taught me all about giving to the community, helping the community. And that's probably why I'm doing a lot of this stuff today, is because of what he taught me. Unfortunately, I got to see the dark side of him that quite often threatened to put me in an orphanage, to give me away, to tell me I was never going to be anything. Just, you know, really hard. And I got that from quite a few family members too, as well. So I get it now. I wasn't the ideal son they were hoping for, but this is who I am. And that was who I was then. I had to get here on a journey. So some fun stories. Robin wanted me to make sure that I threw these out to tell you guys. So growing up, I loved any kind of entertainment. And I had a 4th grade teacher who didn't like me so much, or at least I got that impression. I grew up during segregation, and I can remember when the first black kids came to our school, and I knew them because they lived down the road from us. And so I asked the teacher, why do they have to sit in the back? Why can't they come sit up here? And her comment was to me, why don't you go sit in the back with them? So I did. And I was one of those kids that asked a lot of questions that people probably thought I have no business asking. But that was the way I needed to find out about things. And So that year, that teacher I had was very hard on me, and she actually failed me, and I didn't get to go with my classmates. But little did I know that disaster would turn into a beginning of many wonderful things to come. I had a new teacher when I went back to school named Mrs. Myers, who was my new fourth grade teacher, who immediately saw that I wasn't stupid and didn't put me in a place where I felt that. She pointed out I had a learning disability, dyslexia, that a lot of people didn't know about them, but she did. And she went on to help me with that, but she also went on to inspire and encourage me to do the things that I wanted to do. Like we put on a play, Roland Martin Laughing, in the fourth grade, and I got to be Henry Gibson, and I got to do some other parts. And I remember asking my teacher, I said, I wondered if I could be one of the dancers like Goldie Hawn and Joanne Worley. And she's like, well, you know, that's a girl, but I think that's fine if you bring me a note that your parents says that are okay with that. So my mama was very good about supporting me, even though she really never wanted me to be involved in entertainment because she was afraid I'd be disappointed or let down from it. And so I got to debut my drag in the fifth grade. The teacher allowed me and another schoolmate who also wanted to do that. Obviously, later I found out he was a gay female impersonator in Las Vegas. So, our careers took us in the direction that was in our heart at a young age. So that was tough, but at least I had a teacher who loved me and helped me and inspired me. And then just really weird, like the next day or week when we went back to school, Mrs. Myers wasn't there anymore. And I'm like, what happened? And later I found out she had been let go of her job because she inspired us to be ourselves. And back in that time, that was nothing that was to be allowed in school. So it was really it was really sad to know that had happened. But she put me on a road and a mission to be where I'm at today by going after my dreams, even when people say no. I've had a lot of no's in my life when it comes to entertainment, but that's just part of it. It's what comes with the field, unfortunately. And I've also had a lot of yeses, but uh, in 1976, I got married. I had a high school sweetheart, and we got married. And all through school, I tried my best not to act on gay emotions. And, I'd been told how bad it was and how evil. And so, yeah, I didn't want to be gay. And I thought, well, this is a good way. And it was. I love my ex-wife. We're really good friends today. Um, her baby brother's gay, but I said, hey, that ain't got anything to do with me. So, but, it felt really good to reconnect with someone that way. But it was really hard. When I got a divorce, um, I lost everything I had, but at the same token, I won everything I ever dreamed of, my freedom and to be who I was going to be. So it was worth it. I hated that she had to go through the pain and agony of having a husband who come out of the closet gay. So um, that that was tough. But so we had got married and we had a normal marriage. I worked in a county hospital, and I had got the opportunity to get a job in a really big Atlanta hospital, a school of teaching, and I got a job there. And while having that job, I had met some folks that I worked with that were gay. And one of them kind of took me under his wing and helped me and told me a lot about it. They really didn't want to be the one that caused me to get a divorce. They wanted me to figure out all this stuff on my own. So I did get a divorce. And in 1978, I went to a gay bar for the first time by myself. I sit in the car for probably an hour and a half trying to get up the nerve to go in this gay bar. And out comes this really tall black woman. Well, I found out she's not really a black woman. She is a tall black guy doing drag. And he says, let me introduce myself. I'm Mother. He said, are you going to sit in the car all night or are you going to come in? I said, I don't know. So Mother got me in the club, and I had an amazing time. And I also saw my co-worker and my co-boss on the gay disco floor together. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they were as surprised as I was about them. Um, about 2 weeks later, Mother had gave me a job working the spotlight and doing part of the sound, and also being a backup dancer for the drag queens. And I made decent money, but more importantly, I was living my life as doing what I wanted, being on stage, getting to be a dancer, because that was something I spent my whole life was mainly focusing. I wanted to be a dancer. Then it involved to be a singer and actor, whatever, that needs to go with the feel. Um, and I really liked my job and had so much fun. I finally quit working in the hospital because I couldn't handle doing a nighttime job, working in a hospital, and also going to school to be a nurse. So I finally stepped away from that. That was a sad thing. I regret. That's one thing I do regret, but I don't regret that I chose the path that I chose. And later, I had a older gentleman that was really well known in the city of Atlanta. He owned 2 gay bars. He owned a limousine business, and he started coming to see my shows. And quite often, we had famous people or people that were supposedly on their way to being famous to come in. And I got to know Jim, and I became a boyfriend to him later. But he offered me a job paying me $1,000 a week to be a dancer. And $1,000? Nobody makes that kind of money in the 70s, certainly not being a dancer. And I never forget when he said, well, let's go back and get you all set up. And, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And he's like, well, come back. So he tells me, so we have all these big cages and pedestals, and he said, and you're going to dance there. The floor was a glass floor with nurse sharks swimming under it, the dance floor. It was kind of like Studio 54 in that set, that it was the biggest thing that ever came to Atlanta. And he said, so I never forget thinking, well, what do I wear? And he says, so you wear that. And I'm like, what is that? And so I take it down. It's a G-string. And I'm like, well, where's the rest of the costume? He said, that is the costume. Of course, you can make other parts to go with it, and that can be your costume. So I got to start dancing there, and it was a lot of fun. I felt like I was on top of the world. I lived in a penthouse apartment. I got chauffeured around in limousines. It all felt really good for a long time. And as everything in life, things change. But in 1979, one of the dancers that I was friends with, we were kind of dating, said, he was a model, and he said, hey, I'm auditioning for a movie. I wish you would go and support me. And so I said, okay. So I wore my blue jeans, I wore my cowboy hat, and he said, you're going like that? I said, yeah. So I went with him to audition for this movie. And we're in this big room, similar to this, much, much bigger, and a lot of people. And I don't know what the movie is. I really don't know if he knew. But out walks Don Knotts and Tim Conway. And I'm like, I'm in shock because I grew up, Don Knotts was somebody I loved. And, I fantasized so much about that time and that period in Mayberry and seeing that. And so they start to tell a little bit about the movie. It's called The Prize Fighter. It was made in 1979. And so they start picking people to be movie parts, background people, just whatever, And so I'm way in the back in the corner, and finally Don Knotts says to me, hey, you back there in the back in the corner with the cowboy hat on, are you ready to be a movie star? My heart was like, oh. And I never forget that because Tim Conway came out too, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, well, I didn't really come to audition. I'm here for my friend. He's like, well, you want to be in a movie or do you not? No, I want to be in a movie. My friend did not get picked. And of course, that kind of ended our relationship. He was so mad that he didn't get picked. He spent lots of money to go to modeling school. And so I actually got to be a background person in 1979. If you go online, the prize fighter, you might see me in there in a fight scene in the audience. And so it was three of the most fascinating days of of my life. And that made me realize that more than ever, I wanted to have that career. So it took a while to do. Now I'm going to flip back and tell you another little story growing up, and then I'll go forward again. So one of the stories Robin wanted me to share is I had a best friend growing up. His name was Butch. His real name was Willie, but he went by Butch. And me and Butch were inseparable. I actually met him in the fourth grade when I got held back. That next year when I went back to the fourth grade, he came to my school. And we became best of friends for all the way through our life till he passed away during COVID, with COVID, unfortunately. But he and I, really, me probably more, wanted to go to the county fair. And Mama and Daddy said, you've already been to a county fair. You can't go again. So unless you come up with a way you can get there and get the money. And I thought, okay, I might start thinking. So Smart Eddie decides we're going to go around and collect money for church choir robes from all our neighbors, from all the people that we knew in our neighborhood. And we made over $100. And I was so excited. He was so excited. And I was probably about 13 years old. So we caught a cab and went to the county fair. And we had the funnest, craziest fun time. And we felt like we were living our life dreams, pretending we were grown up and had our own place. And the fair time come to close down. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, we have $10 left. How are we going to get home? And I'm like, I don't know, because it's about probably 8 or 9 miles. And I'm like, well, I guess we're going to have to hitchhike or walk home. So we thank goodness decided at 9 or 10 o'clock at night probably was not a good time to be hitchhiking. And so we walked home, and it took us mainly most of the night. We got there just before dawn and got in bed, and I was like, oh, I'm just laying there and thinking, thank God I'm in my bed. And a few minutes later, I hear a mom in the distance saying, okay, boys, y'all get up. It's time to eat our breakfast and get ready to go to church. And I looked at Butch, and he looked at me, and we got big lumps in our throat. And I thought, oh, no, we got to go to church. And it dawned on me, we can't go to church. I tried to get out of it. Mama said, y'all, yeah, you have to go to church. That you have to do. So we went to church, and we have been Sunday school, and we had preaching afterwards. My father was the deacon of the church across the street from us. And so as kids, me and James quite often would leave after Sunday school and go home. Sometimes we came back, sometimes we didn't. But I remember when we came back, one of the Sunday school ladies, not the teacher, but said, so we're so excited about those new church choir robes. And I wish you could have looked around, and my daddy is looking at me like, what? And then another says, yeah, and we donated $20 too to Butch and Eddie for the choir robes. And next thing I know, we were outed by what we had did. Let me tell you, my daddy taught me a very important lesson from that. He made me stand up in church and say that I was a liar and a thief, and that was just so shameful to have to do. And all these people, mind you, they've known me since I've been a baby. I felt so embarrassed, felt so ashamed. So he did make me work for all those people. He paid the money back, but he made me work for them. Then he made me work for him. And then once we did that, we went out and bought church choir robes with the money. So I learned a very strong lesson there as a kid. And Another quick story, and then I'm going to move on to entertainment. Another story that Robin really wanted me to share with you guys is I was about 7 years old, I'm thinking 6 or 7. And again, after church was over, me and James went home, and I went in Mama's closet, and she had this beautiful blouse that was just beautiful, colorful, and she had this gold chain belt that had coins that hung on it. And she would wear that to church, or she would wear it out for things. My mom was a very plain, simple kind of person, but she did dress up for special occasions. And I just remember as a kid, I got it out of the closet and put it on, and I put the chain on, and I thought, oh my God, I look wonderful. And so I decided it was time for me to go back to church. And as I get to the church, I'm hearing bringing in the sheaves. And I thought, oh, just perfect time. And so I go strutting right down the aisle with Mama's blouse on and her gold chain belt. And everybody in the church was just like their mouths were dropped open, except for my Sunday school teacher, who also supported me through my life. She thought I was just being a fashion person. And I was. I wasn't trying to be a girl at that point. But I wanted to wear that, and I thought, what a cool thing to do, and I can dance and sing. And I used to crawl in and sneak in the church and sing and play the piano and pretend it was my own private stage. I did that for many years till I was told I couldn't do it anymore. So going on, being in entertainment, I danced for many excuse me, I danced for many years in different nightclubs in Atlanta, also in Tennessee and Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. So I did get out and travel some in the entertainment business. I finally, in 1980, found out that I had gotten really sick and went to the hospital. And the doctor had told me that he thought I had contracted hepatitis, which I had. And also later he told me while I was in the hospital that I had this new gay disease that was killing all men with this new disease. And so I pretty much was told at that point that I needed to go home and get everything in line because I didn't have long to live. So with that came, I took that, went home, and I kept it to myself. I didn't tell my family for many years. I didn't tell people because the stigma then was people were dying and people were ashamed of we were treated really poorly, even by other gay people, either other gay men. So it was something I was told as a dancer, keep it to yourself, keep dancing, and go on about your business. And so I did that for a while. I went to support groups. At that time, we had them every night because so many people were dying within a week. We'd have 50 people, and when we go back in a few days later, half of those people are gone, and there's a whole new group of young people there. During the time when I had HIV, it was really hard to find anyone between the ages of 25 and 30. If you were younger, you didn't have it, or you might not have it. And if you were older, you might not have it because you were older and you were in a relationship with someone. And I remember for a long period, I couldn't find anyone that, uh, at my age limit. And so I kept dancing for quite a while. One of my dear friends who also was an entertainer, he did drag. The drag community literally saved my life, brought me in, taught me all about being gay. So I cherish that, having that experience. A lot of gay people do not care for drag queens. They're just people, just like you and me. And the only difference is they like putting their dress on, maybe a little different than you do. So, but I kept entertaining as much as I could. Probably in 1984, I met a really famous person. At that time, I didn't know this person was famous because they were on their way to becoming the most famous person in the LGBT community, I think. And like I said, I got a lot of different people to come to see the shows, and sometimes they were famous people in the audience that I met. And I remember with this person, we partied and danced, and I had told her about me having HIV and having AIDS, and about the boyfriend that I had, the way he treated me. Basically, I was a sex object for the industry, and that was the hard truth of it all. Once I realized that, I wanted to get away from it. And that night, that person gave me the best advice I ever got, and said to me, Eddie, nobody controls your life. No one owns you. You're in charge. And keep your pants zipped. And she said, and you know what? She says, you need to get out and see the world. You need to go to California. She says, because you're a very talented person. She said, and you are self-motivated. I can see that about you. And so I thought about that, and I did. A couple weeks after that, I just started doing shows on my own. But I got out of the industry. I can remember I had been offered by some dancers who were doing Fiddler on the Roof. They wanted to take me to New York to put me in Broadway. And Jim said, they're just going to take you to out there, and then they're going to have sex with you and dump you on the street. And then you want to come back to me, and that's not going to happen. So I didn't do that, but I quite often wonder what would have happened had I went. So I started performing, and I enjoyed performing on my own. I performed with a group of other people. The boyfriend I had at the time was a dancer, and we had two friends that were female impersonators. So I was in charge and control of my life, and it felt really good. So in 1985, I met a gentleman named Victor who became my partner. He was from Cuba, and I was just 30 or a little over 30. I don't remember exactly. And I remember crying, thinking, I want to do something with my life other than be a dancer. I just feel like I really need to do something. And so in 1985, 86, I opened up a pet store, a small, very small business in a small rural town, mind you, very red. And I opened up a pet store and put a gay flag in my window from the day one. And I got a lot of response from people, but mostly I got positive from people that I didn't expect to get. So that gave me a lot of hope about people. And we had a great pet store. After the first year, decided I was going to move into a bigger pet store and open a petting zoo. And I did. I had a couple of people, my mom backed me up with helping me get a loan. So I had a lot of people who've always believed in me and loved me, even though I've had a lot of people that didn't. I've had a lot of people that did. And we had a monkey wedding. I had primates in my petting zoo. I had capuchins, white-faced capuchins. I had a Mona monkey, had a baboon that was about the size of a chimpanzee named Clyde, who was an animal research ape who was rescued by a preacher who gave him to me to put in my petting zoo, and did really well with that. And so we had a monkey wedding with real monkeys, and we did it in an old-fashioned train, came up and brought 2,500 people. There was a fall festival. I was on the news, and the next day, it came out in the newspaper, Eddie Green Pet Hut entrepreneur, and I didn't even know what it was, and I didn't even know how to say it. And I remember calling my sister because I said, I'm in the newspaper, and I'm being called the entrepreneur of the town. And I said, what is that? Is that like a fancy word for a gay business person? She said, well, yes, maybe. She says, but that's not really. And so she'd tell me, I didn't really know what it was. And so we had a very successful business that went on for quite a while. We did educational programs for kids in schools, as well as a pet store and a petting zoo. And then in 1988 or 89, my friend John had gotten really sick with AIDS, and he came back to live with us, and I decided at that point I needed to take care of him. And I remember some way it leaked out in town. Gay pet store owner has AIDS. All the animals have AIDS. Don't go there. And one day I went in and they had written AIDS fuckers die on my building door. And then the community came and washed it and cleaned it all back up. So with hate does come community. And right now I know we're missing and filling the lack of that. But we have to keep believing, even those people that we don't necessarily agree with on everything, that this is how we will get through it, is by education and being there for each other and trying to educate people along the way. So I feel successful that I have educated some people about their thoughts and concerns about being gay or HIV or AIDS. So I feel good that I did my part and still working on it. So I also had cancer in 1996 and was told that I had probably 3 months to live. Obviously, I'm here. So it was a very scary time in my life. I can remember sitting in the car and thinking, when my oncologist had told me that I had cancer, I came out and cried because I thought, Eddie, how do you beat having AIDS and cancer? And I just thought there's no way to beat that. But miracles happen. And I guess I really do believe in miracles because I've got to be a part of miracles a couple of times. I had pancreatitis 13 times, was in the hospital for about 3 months. And my doctor told me at that time that I'd set a world medical record with pancreatitis, because most people that get it 1 or 2 times, then they die. So there was a big plan for me to be here. I used to be really angry that I was positive. I was mad. I didn't understand why I had to watch all my friends, 3 partners, die. And then it dawned on me later. I saw through everything. I needed to be here so I could be there for them and anybody else that walks through the door and has going through what I've been through, to be there and help them out. And yes, I'm privileged that I get to be a part of the Billy DeFrank Center and volunteer and be in these groups. It's amazing. So thank you for that. In 2000, I moved to San Diego, California, where I met the real love of my life. I've had a lot that I thought was the real love, but that's the real one right back there. And he's also my translator in case you don't understand me. But me and Robin have been together for 25 years almost. We got very involved in the community in San Diego. I became a co-chairman of a men's group in San Diego called San Diego Possibilities. Can't talk tonight. And was on that board for 15 years, raised a lot of money, did a lot of educating. And I realized that's exactly what I'm here for. I still love to entertain. I still have opportunities to perform. And at certain events, I will perform. I do fundraisers. So if you're having a fundraiser and you need entertainment, maybe after you see me, you might want to, and maybe you won't. But I'm just really privileged to be able to be a part of my community. When we moved here, we felt disconnected. We didn't really have the connection that we did. And I was getting sad. I thought, we don't really have the community that we need. And we got to come here, and that's how the community got started. And I am legally blind, but I like to look at it this way. I may lose my sight, but I'm not losing my vision, because you can do a lot of things being disabled. I believe that. I'm living proof of that. And I also, in 2008, I got the opportunity to audition for America's Got Talent. And that was really exciting. I didn't go on the show thinking I was going to win. I just went on. That was a dream. I really wanted to go on the show. I'd actually had dreams about it before I did, and even told some people. And Robin's like, well, you really shouldn't tell people because you don't know if you're going to get to be on the show. But I did. And even though I got cut from the show, I got brought back for the season finale by the judges' favorite. I guess I was kind of like the, when the beauty girl wins, but she don't win, the really sweet, nice person. Yeah, I was probably their most congeniality person. And so they brought me back. So, and that was really nice. I got to meet a lot of real entertainers, and it was a dream come true for me to get to perform on national TV. And if I'm lucky enough, next year is America's Got Talent's 20-year anniversary, and they are handpicking previous people to come be on their show. And I'm working on my audition right now, interview more about what I've done since I left AGT 16 years ago. So um, dreams come true. I just want you to know that. And I know it's really hard and sometimes to keep going as we get older. That's been a struggle for me, and I know it's a struggle for a lot of us. And the same thing is, there are a lot of us that are alone. And my goal is to reach as many people as I can and let them know they're not alone. And so we and Robin just unveiled and started a new nonprofit. No, it's an organization. It's not a nonprofit yet, called rainbowneighbors.org. And we're going to be building and connecting the communities together. We also want to be able to refer people out to anywhere that they could go for organizations or help or support. And I'm really excited about that. So I guess, that's all I've got to say right now, other than, again, thank you all for letting me in and getting to tell you this story. And we'll see where this journey goes. And I hope you all get to be a part of it. So thank you so much. So thank you. So I'm going to give you guys a little small, I wanted to do something personal. A lot of you have seen my shows. A lot of you might not have. And so this is an opportunity for me to just give you a little piece of my heart. And I hope you enjoy it. And then you guys get to ask me questions, and I'm looking really forward to that. So.
When I'm out on the stage all alone, and I hear the music begin, we all know the show must go on, but you can make it.
Don't be afraid. You can ask me anything. America's Got Talent was the most challenging show that I've had to be faced, because being on a national TV show, a lot of it is planned, but a lot of it is not. And being on a show like that, the producer who worked with me in the beginning said, "Eddie, I'm going to tell you some points right off the bat." He said, "If someone asks you to do something that's not in your normal realm, don't say no or I can't, because that's an instant out the door." He says it's best to try. And that's part of being in entertainment. Sometimes we're giving things that we're not comfortable with to do. The puppet I went on the show with, I made in 2 days. It didn't work properly. It was a disaster. One of the eyes came crooked, and so one eye was over here. And yeah, so when you're doing a show, whatever happens is for a real person that's entertainment knows, you just got to pick yourself up and keep going. So it was very challenging, being asked to do, things at the spur of the moment. Long hours. We spent 12 to 14 hours a day on the set, rehearsing. And sometimes it was me holding her or whoever and going up and down stairs. On the season finale, they had a big winding staircase that was in the Price is Right theater. And before I was on the show, I went up with some friends to see one of the tapings on the show after I'd been sent home. And I told my friends in this group, I said, "I can see me coming down that stairway there." And they're like, "You're already off the show." I'm like, "I know, but I could see myself." 3 weeks later, I got called to come back to be in the season finale production as the judge's favorite pick to bring back. And guess what? They asked me when we went into the studio, we were all there and they were saying, we want to do this and that. And Eddie, could you go up this staircase? There was one on the right and one on the left, and the one on the right was where I said I could see me. And so that's what I did. I came up and down that stairway on the season finale probably hundreds of times because everything had to be exact right timing. And at that time, I was losing my sight, and I was really afraid I might fall off the stage, but luckily I didn't.
So I have another question for you, Eddie. So Renee and I have been lucky to meet you at the Billy DeFrank Vintage Lunch along with Robin and a few others that are here. But what else do you do at Billy DeFrank? I know you're really engaged.
So at the Billy DeFrank, I have a group that we have tomorrow called Positive Living, and that is a discussion group, social group for long-term survivors with HIV. Just celebrated our 2-year anniversary of doing that group. And then we started a coffee group that we meet here in San Jose the last Saturday of the month. And at what's the coffee shop called? Kramer on Ray Street. And so you're all welcome. Please come in there, look us up. So that is one of the other things I do there. And like I said, we just started this new group, and I'm hoping to get inspired. The city of Fremont's been after me to get involved with their programs. They don't have a whole lot going on yet. I think they're trying. And then we also volunteer in our neighborhood. We have a lot of seniors that are not LGBT, but they're seniors that need help. And so we help them out any way we can. So that really is my goal. I think if I had eyes and transportation, I would be all over this place helping more people than what I'm trying to do. And let me just say, I also get so much out of doing this. People ask me, what do you get out by doing this? I get everything out of it because I get to be a part of all your lives. I get to be a part of mine, and I get to be a part of my community and help and educate and be there to give out kindness. I've learned with a disability, it's really hard. There's so many things I can't do anymore. So I focus on the things that I can do because we all can still do things. If I can do these things with very bad vision, you can do a lot of things too. You just need to be inspired and do it one step at a time. That's how you do it. So don't give up on your dreams and thinking you're alone, because you're not alone. We're all here for each other. So
I think you talked a little bit. When you were first diagnosed with AIDS or HIV, what were your feelings? What uh, I know, here, I remember people, yeah, it was like somebody would be here, and then the next week, I actually remember being at Billy DeFrank and they started talking about this gay cancer.
mm-hmm.
But oh, that's in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Anyway, talk a little bit about when you first heard
Mm-hmm.
Diagnosis, when you talked a little bit about, you'd come, there'd be 50 people, then there wouldn't be.
Right.
And that was here too.
It was very scary because I really didn't know from one day to the next. It's today, my last day. And watching so many people pass away and die with that disease and nothing to be done. And at times it seemed like no one cared and wanted to help. And it was by some, but there was also a lot of people who did help. And I really think what got me through it was support groups and finally having a family that did support me on it. I finally came out and told them later. Like I said, I didn't tell them in the beginning. So it was extremely scary. It was very similar when COVID came around. I felt like I was reliving the AIDS epidemic again. So I think I've been fortunate enough that I've lived through so many close calls in life that every day we have is a precious day because tomorrow can be gone. And you really need to focus on living every day if you can, the fullest that you can. And that's all we have anyway, what we have right now. There's no guarantee on anything after this. So make the best of it you can, live the best life that you can, and every one of you deserves all full happiness. And I think you get it.
I wanted to say amen.
Amen. When I do have my video diary comes out, I'll make sure you guys, all the members of Valley DeFrank, you guys will get a copy of it for free. But I don't know. Okay. So, well, the goal is for this group is to connect all the existing communities that are around because out in some of the rural areas, there's nothing there for LGBT people. Like anywhere. And so my goal is to connect as many people as I can by telling them about Billy DeFrank and all the wonderful, amazing things that go on with this place. And Billy DeFrank and Gabrielle is the reason why I'm inspired to make that dream come true. So we want to have outings and programs and connect them with the programs that are going on here. Basically, I even want to at some point to be able for people, because there are people that don't know how to have a computer, they can't see like me, and so having no one or having to be alone is a horrible thing to go through. And I just want to make sure that people know they're not alone, and we're going to connect people together, doing it one person at a time. And I'm going to try to get as many communities involved in having programs, having private event at your house, go to a coffee group where you can meet people, just building the community outward and around and making us all stronger together. That's really what my goal is. Yeah, well, I had wanted to come to California so bad when I had cancer, but I couldn't. My doctor told me, if I traveled, there's a good chance I'm going to die. And so I didn't think I was going to get to go to California. And then my cancer disappeared, went in remission, and I did get to come to California. I came to visit a friend, and I loved it. I knew it was going to be everything I'd ever imagined and even more. And I literally 4 days before I left to come back to Georgia, I met Robin in a desert on a hike. I'd never been to a desert or a gay hike. And he was part of the group there. He was a very big hiker and was all in that. And I knew immediately, I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, I'm in love. And I told him that 3 days later, and he's like, and so it was everything I could imagine. It was everything to connect me with the community better. I have had more, I've entertained more in San Diego and in that area in Palm Springs than I have all the years put together in Atlanta. So it was everything. It was amazing. We get to have amazing parties and invite people over and do things for the community. I'm very lucky that I have a person that literally puts me first puts his stuff on the back burner sometimes. So I'm probably one of the luckiest people you'll ever meet. So- Thank you all again. And Carol, thank you for talking me into doing it. So thank you guys all. Have a beautiful night.